Hello, hi, welcome to Lola Loves Reading, and today I will be continuing our series of Les Classiques, my review and commentary of various works of classical literature. And today we will be discussing a book that I normally read every year around Christmas time, Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. Emily Brontë is a fascinating study, and honestly my favorite Brontë sister. The second youngest of 4 siblings to survive into adulthood, Emily was considered the strangest of the 3 prolific Brontë sisters, her other 2 sisters being Anne, who wrote Agnes Grey, and Charlotte, who wrote Jane Eyre. Emily was a sensitive introvert, prone to slipping away into fantasy worlds, unable to really hold down a job due to her fragile health and her disinterest in building relationships with people outside of her immediate circle. She was obstinate, with a deep, complex inner world, and was drawn to nature and animals. The death of the Brontë siblings' mother when they were all relatively young seemed to insulate the family even further. Emily was the one who observed this attitude the strongest. The 3 Brontë sisters, along with their brother Branwell, wrote poems and read extensively, and even created their own secret literary world together. And with this background in mind, let's get into the meat and potatoes of Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights begins in the year 1801 with a one Mr. Lockwood, who has recently rented Thrushcross Grange in Yorkshire, England. He pays a visit to his strange and surly landlord, Mr. Heathcliff, at his home Wuthering Heights. These homes seem to be the only 2 in close proximity of each other, located in the remote Yorkshire moors, hilly and blustery and wrapped in mystery. Living at Wuthering Heights with Mr. Heathcliff is young Cathy Linton, his daughter-in-law, and Hareton Earnshaw, his nephew. Both echo Mr. Heathcliff's bad manners and moods. Mr. Lockwood gets stuck at Wuthering Heights during his visit when a snowstorm kicks up outside, and Mr. Heathcliff doesn't seem to care one way or the other. Mr. Lockwood finds his way upstairs to stay the night in a supposedly haunted bedroom, and that night he has a ghostly experience of a woman appearing in the 2nd-story window during this snowstorm and begging to be let inside. The specter is so vivid that when a branch shatters the window and Mr. Lockwood runs over in an attempt to cover it, he feels 2 arms grab him through the shattered glass, and even sees the arms harming themselves against the window as they pull on him. He is understandably shook to the core. Mr. Heathcliff hears Mr. Lockwood's cries of terror and is aggravated to find him in the forbidden bedroom. Mr. Lockwood expresses how he can't wait to leave this creepy-ass place and sleeps downstairs until the morning, when he promptly leaves. By the time he gets back home to Thrushcross Grange, the weather and lack of rest has caught up with him, and Mr. Lockwood falls ill. Nellie, a housekeeper who has been with the family since her childhood, settles in to tell Mr. Lockwood the story of Heathcliff, Catherine Earnshaw, and Wuthering Heights. Nellie tells Mr. Lockwood that 30 years before, the Earnshaws owned Wuthering Heights. Mr. Earnshaw had 2 children, Catherine, called Cathy, and Hindley. Mr. Earnshaw was a merchant of some wealth, and he returned from one of his trips with a foundling, who he named Heathcliff. Heathcliff could have been Romani, or even a Moor, a term used back then for someone of North African descent. Heathcliff becomes Mr. Earnshaw's favorite, and Mr. Earnshaw insists that his 2 children treat Heathcliff like their own sibling. This makes Cathy and Hindley, who are already ill-behaved, even more dissenting. Hindley, in particular, is very abusive towards Heathcliff and refuses to treat him as his equal. Eventually, Cathy and Heathcliff become close. Very close. Eventually, Hindley leaves for university, marries, and comes back to Wuthering Heights with his new wife as the master, upon the death of his father. Hindley makes Heathcliff be his servant. One night, Cathy and Heathcliff are running amok on the moors when they find themselves spying on their neighbors at Thrushcross Grange, the Lintons. Thinking they are robbers outside, the Lintons send their dogs to attack the intruders, and Cathy is injured. The Lintons take her in to help her, but send Heathcliff back to Wuthering Heights to tell Hindley what happened. Cathy stays with the Lintons for over a month, and the Linton siblings, Edgar and Isabella, practically adopt her. The Lintons are wealthy, and they shower Cathy with new things. When she finally returns to Wuthering Heights, Hindley and his wife are delighted at Cathy's transformation into a fine lady, and Heathcliff is shocked and tells her to her face that she's changed for the worse. Heathcliff is so upset, he starts a fight with Edgar and Hindley and ends up shut up in the cold attic. He vows his revenge on Hindley and the Lintons. That's when shit begins to hit the fan. Hindley's wife dies giving birth to their son Hareton. This breaks Hindley, and he starts neglecting Wuthering Heights and drinking his life away. Cathy becomes engaged to Edgar Linton. Cathy's happy, but confused. She confesses to Nellie that she loves Heathcliff, but could never marry him because of his unhinged moods and his low social standing. Heathcliff overhears everything and runs away from Wuthering Heights. Cathy, realizing just how much she loves Heathcliff, and realizing he took off without saying goodbye, gets so upset she makes herself sick. During the next 3 years, Cathy marries Edgar Linton, even though it's obvious she doesn't really love him. Despite that, she's pregnant with their first baby. Heathcliff randomly pops back up, almost unrecognizable because he's suddenly wicked rich and has all the airs and graces of a gentleman. Cathy is awestruck at Heathcliff's transformation, and she can't mask how excited she is to see him. Heathcliff is cold and formal to Cathy, which sends her into orbit again. Isabella, Edgar's sister, is obsessed with Heathcliff's new glow-up, and he encourages her by love-bombing the fuck out of her. Seducing his sister and rizzing up his wife aggravates Edgar so much that he banishes Heathcliff from Thrushcross Thrushcross Grange. Heathcliff, taking advantage of everyone's misery, immediately goes to Wuthering Heights and swipes it right out from underneath an incoherent, alcoholic Hindley. Heathcliff then takes Hindley's neglected son Hareton under his wing. And finally, in a piece de resistance, Heathcliff elopes with Isabella Linton and almost instantly drops the mask, trapping her in the marriage. Cathy is so perturbed by the whole thing, her chronic illness comes back full throttle, and she won't leave her bedroom or eat. Heathcliff goes to her secretly, and they finally confess their love to each other, but it's too late. She's fading fast. Cathy dies shortly after giving birth to her daughter, Catherine Linton. Edgar is heartbroken. Isabella takes Linton and leaves Heathcliff. Hindley dies clinging to the bottle, and Heathcliff's bad mood becomes his whole personality. After Isabella's death, a sickly Linton goes to live with young Cathy and his uncle Edgar at Thrushcross Grange. A scheming Heathcliff encourages a romance between the two teens, and upon Edgar's death, basically forces Cathy and Linton to marry and move in with him at Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff subjects Hareton, Linton, and young Cathy to his madness. Confessing the night Catherine Earnshaw died, he dug her up just to hold her, and now her ghost haunts him and all of Wuthering Heights. Linton's weak constitution can't handle his father's obnoxious drama or psychological torture, and he dies. Nellie has reached the present day with her tale. Mr. Lockwood is so beyond that he gives up his lease at Thrushcross Grange because he needs a minty bee as a treat. 8 months later, haunted by the unresolved feelings he has about the tale of Wuthering Heights, he has a change of heart and returns for the tea, and Nellie spills. Mr. Heathcliff, increasingly unstable, is now dead, after becoming paranoid and losing himself in the moors, calling for his lost love, Catherine Earnshaw. Young Cathy and Hareton are also in love, and plan to marry after she teaches him how to comb his hair and read. The ghosts of Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff are seen by the locals on the moors, together again at long last. Mr. Lockwood is satisfied, and the book ends with him paying respects at the graves of Cathy, Heathcliff, and Edgar, as he prays they have all found peace in the next life. Phew, y'all. That was a journey, not gonna lie. I want to have myself a little gothic Christmas, and Emily Brontë serves that exactly. Wuthering Heights is an enduring phenomenon. Its drama and themes of obsessive love, unnatural horrors, and oppressed principles reach out to us in a timeless way. Wuthering Heights, written in 1847, was Emily Bronte's only novel. Sickly her whole life, with her stubborn nature prohibiting her from seeing a doctor until it was too late, she passed away only 3 months after her brother Branwell at the age of 30. The memory of Emily and Wuthering Heights enduring forever in the collective legacy of her famous family, as well as those of us who understand that the line between pain and pleasure remains very thin. Y'all have a fantastic Yule, winter solstice, and holiday season. I'll see y'all next year with more reviews and commentaries. Kay, keep reading. Love you. Bye!